AI is anywhere. You probably realize that there's no event, no tagline, no sponsorship. Nothing happens without AI today. However, when we look into AI, there are certain people who could probably consider themselves as pioneers because they are on the frontier of what AI does and they are the first ones to implement it, and probably also have, besides, of course, all the benefits, they might have all the risk and the cost when something goes wrong. On the other side, you have people who are more likely to be called administrators, people who say, let's wait for it, let's see what's happening, we have to see what's up next, but we are not going to be the first ones to implement, we just wait for things to happen, and as soon as something comes to the market, pops up there, we are the second or even third wave of movers, waiting until we see that something has a real benefit before actually getting just on the bandwagon and maybe wasting money on something that doesn't have any benefit afterwards. We have to see where are we with AI and what can we do about it, because AI, as I already said, is anywhere. The problem is that in many areas people say, I see that AI is there, but I'm not sure about the benefits for us. Some people hesitate, some people are a bit too early, some people are a bit too late. Where are you as a leader and as an organization to be on the right path for AI? And first we have to look into certain areas. Let's imagine you are a company based in London, and what you do is you're a staffing agency. You help organizations to recruit the right people, either temporary or on full-time contracts, and you get paid for that. And now you decide that might be a market which also exists in different other countries, let's say in Europe. And by the way, what I tell you here, all the examples I mention are real world examples that are actually happening right now. It's already on the market what they do. So this company in London decided to enter other markets. But of course, they know when you have recruiting aspects in your business, there might be a regulation coming with it, especially when you're a staffing agency that leaves staff temporarily with a different employer, you allow them to use them. This is often a heavily regulated industry. And yes, it is. And they decided to go into 7 different markets all over Europe. The usual approach that you have is that you say, we need a complete overview on all regulations in these markets. You go to a large law firm. To get into the depth of all these different laws, you need law firms that have locations in basically any of these countries or have partner firms in any of these countries. And then you have to see how many lawyers do they need. Usually probably 7 lawyers in 7 countries, 1 lawyer per country, maybe even 10 makes it 14. And then they spend weeks and weeks and weeks, often charging 300, 500 or even more dollars, pounds, euros, depending on where you hired them per hour, charging you that amount. This company decided to do something else. Of course, they had lawyers to accompany them to check if they were right of what they've done, but they said, we are going with a specialized legal AI, which was, by the way, sold by a law firm. So it was a law firm that proactively already engaged in the laws and fed an AI, trained an AI professionally with laws, newest ideas from courts, newest comments on that, newest developments. So people were on the brink, on the cutting edge of technology and on the cutting edge of knowledge. And with that, this company entered 7 different markets. This includes, and that's very important, not only the research, not only getting the facts together and getting summaries on it, but also legal aspects. What are the first impressions? Could you give me overviews on different countries? Could you give me contracts? Can we compare contracts? Can we compare laws? What could we do best in which country? All of that was available and possible just with AI, just with one professionally trained tool. Very important here. Some people say, yeah, ChatGPT is a bit flawed, isn't it? And here are the news. AI does not end with ChatGPT. If you are still on the level saying the only thing I know about AI is ChatGPT, you really have to up your game and read up on the matter, because AI is way more than ChatGPT. ChatGPT is just the most known tool because they were first to the market and it was free to use. When you now say we have certain things in our organization which are repetitive, and I'm not even talking about entering markets. Let's say you are a supermarket chain. You have people who need to be trained on the matter. They start with you during the onboarding process. You have to tell them what to do, where to do different aspects of their jobs. Who are the people to talk to? What do they have to do with documentation? What are the processes? And of course, no one remembers all of that on first attempt. A major German food chain has a fully trained chatbot. And by the way, in any language, in any language of staff they hired, meaning more than 100 languages, people can ask their questions. And not only does it lift the burden from leaders who frequently get asked, who is the person to talk to here? What was the process there? How do I do this? I forgot it. Could you please tell me again? It takes weeks, if not months, that people get the routine to be able to do it by themselves. They now can ask the internal chatbot, which is, by the way, not public. Of course, it's only for employees. And in addition to that, we all know that, especially, for example, in retail, but also in different other industries, you do not always have native speakers for many different reasons. Then saying, hey, this is my English language approach with a certain accent. Could you please just figure out what I told you? While some people are not mastering the English language, let's say beyond a certain limit or at all, the chatbot solves this. People can ask questions in their language, either by audio or by typing it into a chatbot, and they get an answer in their language. And if you now say, this is not something worthwhile, you really missed the plot or lost the plot quite a while ago. So the chatbot, the translation, everything that's repetitive, has certain patterns, can easily be automated with AI, as long as you train the AI professionally, which of course means that you need to hire experts in the first place on AI to get it done right. And now we come to the point where often organizations decide to either do it or not do it. And it's not about financial resources in most cases. It is not about the availability of staff. It is not about the availability of hours or workforce. It is the mindset, the attitude towards the topic. And unfortunately, and I really have to say unfortunately, so the good thing here is, in the English-speaking world, it is not as bad as many things I see in the German-speaking world. However, an attitude of refusal, an attitude of denial is something which I frequently see when it comes to AI. People say, oh, look, this AI thing, I just throw one word in the round, data protection laws. How do you make sure that anything we train the AI with is 100% GDPR compliant, and there's a 100% guarantee that there will never, and I repeat, never be any risk of any kind of, let's say, trademark or IP violation of anything we put in there. And of course, yes, that needs effort. However, if you just say, due to all the doubts I have, we're never going to do it, that will cause a massive harm to your business. It's very, very interesting to see that when I do workshops, and I am not the person leading these workshops, I am sitting in these workshops, and I see people sometimes shaking their head saying no to AI before the person in front of them even has started speaking. However, there are many differences between the attitudes. For example, just recently in a workshop where I was a participant, older than 70 years or 72 years, I think he was, a 72-year-old business owner says, oh, we need to see the chances here. And he was anything but a digital native, but he was very clear about the idea that this has an advantage for his business, and he planned to implement that immediately. In this case, a chatbot for his website for customers to get different pieces of information, taking the burden of a human-led service center on the phone, because many people prefer, for example, get the information whenever they want to. For example, 9 p.m., service center closes at 7 p.m., no one's available, and the client goes online, gets the full information. A very simple example of how to use chatbots for the benefit of your customers. In the same room, we had a 31-year-old project manager, and that project manager had an attitude of denial against anything connected with AI. And his fear, obviously, was that he gets replaced by AI. You do not see law firms and lawyers sitting there and saying, oh, I'm so afraid that I'm going to be replaced by AI. The risk being replaced by AI is driven by someone doing standard patterns, always the same, where very little brain work is needed once you got the routine. When that is your job, I can only tell you then you really need to retrain very quickly. Lawyers are not afraid, especially specialized lawyers, are not afraid of AI because the world changes so quickly and there are always interpretations to different laws. There are different cases, different angles, different situations. It always depends on the matter, and they are not afraid because they will always be asked for their point of view and get paid for it. Very important here is that you have to check which of your leaders, who in your staff, who are the people who have a positive attitude towards AI? Because anyone who says, I don't think we should use AI at all, these are not the people that will develop the organization in a positive way. there's no chance to approach AI in the way of saying we genuinely never will do this. There's a zero chance that this is going to be the future. So let's look at the culture your organization should have. 3 aspects you should check. First, is there a focus on benefits? Do people approach AI the way and say, no, no, no? Or do they say, look, I'm quite critical, but I think here it has a certain benefit. These are the people you need to talk to. Of course, you also have to look at, and that's the second aspect, focus on customers. Who are your customers, your clients, your mandates, the people you work with? There are always patterns which are highly repetitive. People need to get pieces of information and information on the process, or simply what's the new phone number of that person, or who is the person I need to call when I have a specialized request for having a couple of days off. And that can be done way quicker when you do it with AI. Or with a chatbot in this case, because you know how it works if you don't do that. Someone will say, oh, I have this specialized request. I think it's HR, isn't it? Yeah, and then someone says, look, I think last time the person you should call is Mr. Such and so, and I think you need to dial the 341 to get through to them. But that's a year ago, so I'm not sure if the number is still valid. So you dial 341 and it's not the person, and then you start guessing or questioning yourself and try to get along the corporate chain of who knows someone that knows someone, which can take hours, if not days, until you find the person responsible and accountable on the matter. Focus on customers, clients, mandates, because they are keen on getting the information. And by the way, I have to tell you, the English-speaking world with public service is far, far ahead. When you see that in the UK, they already use Microsoft Copilot, while in Germany, I still am not able, or mostly not able in many of the states in Germany, I'm not able to get a response via email for whatever reason. That shows you what the difference in attitude will bring to the table. Well done, UK. The third aspect is first steps first. As soon as you look into something, you never say, oh, that's an interesting point, let's put it on an agenda and then talk about that. And at the end of the talk, you say, nice. And then you move on. Nice and moving on means nothing will get done ever. As soon as you talk about something and you could see the very smallest, tiniest idea of anything that it could have a benefit, then what you do is you agree on the first step that will be implemented as quickly as possible. Agree on the first step, and then you evaluate the first step and take it from there. And it might be that you do the first step and say, hey, was a nice idea, it was worth the experience, but we see this is not going forward. That is part of the learning curve. However, you can also have the moment of saying, hey, we have the first step, and I think after this first step, it can do a lot more than we ever thought, and then you develop it from there. I can tell you to sum this all up. What will never work is when you deny to accept that AI is there. Anyone saying I'm in the concept and attitude of refusal, the concept and attitude of denial, these people will go under. These organizations will go under. These people following that concept will go under, and very rightly and well deserved so. It is your task as a leader to convince your people, to open your culture up to an attitude of positivity, focusing on needs, clients, and a first steps first culture with which you will then implement the first step and take it from there. And if you do that, you will see the benefits very quickly, if not saying immediately. And of course, some people might now say, well, that's complicated, isn't it? Well, it's not easy for sure. If you now want to get into a discussion, feel free to drop me an email. nb@nb-networks.com is my email address. You will find the email address also in the show notes of this podcast. Just look below the podcast and you will see the contact data. You also see my LinkedIn there. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and then we can get in contact there. I'm always also looking forward to feedback. This show, by the way, today was a result of countless emails I received on the matter of AI. The second step I always recommend is when you say, hey, I need live sessions with you, and yes, we have live sessions. We have an open Q&A every single month at no charge for our readers and listeners. When you go to expert.nb-networks.com, just put your email address in there, and then you receive only one email per week every Wednesday morning, and that's 100% content at free guarantee. In this email, you do not only get access to anything I published scientifically, you also get access to the live sessions. It says in these emails, when is the next live session? Where is it? And you can just click on a link and then you get direct access to that. The third aspect, however, is the most important one. apply what you heard in this podcast, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive aspects and changes happening in the organization that you obviously want to see happening in your organization. I wish you all the best doing so. I'm available for help 24/7, so contact me anytime and we take it from there. And at the end of this podcast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.